All right, guys, we got another big ass box here, and inside we've got this beautiful 2002 throwback that's releasing, well, probably right now. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's Chris. Welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. Today we got a detailed look and breakdown on these bad boys right here. This is the Air Jordan 17 Low in the white and UNC colorway. And I've got to say, I'm very impressed with Jordan Brand, not because they released the shoe as like a masterful product or anything like that, but because they've released and started with the first two and only two original colorways of the sneaker. I mean, that's awesome. We don't see that nowadays. So if you're an old head and you're like, yo, I've always wanted the Lightning, or I've always wanted the UNCs, well, this year has been f***ing awesome. Now, before we get started, we do have a quick word from today's sponsor, and that's the good folks over at Soul Premise. Soul Premise offers a great variety of travel bags that are designed and built with sneakerheads in mind. The carry-on travel backpacks can fit up to 5 pairs of shoes, or if you're a light packer, 1 pair of shoes, since you're already wearing one while you're traveling, which leaves you with a ton of space for all of your other belongings. And yes, these bags are TSA approved. They fit in the overhead compartment. I've tried this many times and it works successfully. The travel day packs fit up to 2 pairs of sneakers. They even have toiletry bags, crossbody bags, and my personal favorite, the sports bag. I use that every day when I go to the gym. It fits my backup pair, my testing pair, and then another testing pair, along with all of my other stuff, gum, water bottles, change of clothes, sometimes my camera. You never know what might be in that thing. It's like Mary Poppins bag. It's amazing. You can use our promo code that you see on the screen right now to save yourself up to 40% on your purchase with the link down below in our description box. You're welcome in advance. Now, with all that being said, inside of that behemoth of a cardboard box is this big ass thing right here. This is a briefcase, not a briefcase, it's a suitcase, and it only fits 1 pair of shoes. Our sponsor, Soul Premise, way better than that. But inside is the contents, and these bad boys right here are just phenomenal. I love this shoe, man. These are so pretty. The shoe itself was designed by Wilson Smith III. If that name sounds familiar, well, it's because we said it in our last video for the Lightning. So, you know, if you watch all of our content, you've already heard this before, but if you haven't and maybe you're new here, consider subscribing. I would appreciate it. But Wilson Smith III designed a ton of classics, not just from the 90s, but also from modern day. One of my favorites that he's ever done, and this would be like a shoe that I would not put on a Mount Rushmore, but if we're making a big list of like the top 50 sneakers of all time, the Air More Uptempo is sure as hell going to be on it. And like I had mentioned in the previous video, but again, I'll go over it quickly just in case you weren't there. While this shoe right here comes in this giant briefcase and wrapped inside that cardboard box, the original version of the shoe actually came in this. This is a Jordan face box, rumored to be returning next year in 2025 along with everything.
It's year 40.
I don't even think that it's year 40. I think that we're all gonna die. That's the only thing that comes to mind that makes sense, is buy it now while you can.
We're dead! We're dead! We're survived, but we're dead!
Yes, that's a pessimistic point of view, but it's funny. But anyways, inside you had, don't freak out, okay? These are old, but inside you did have the shoes and all that stuff. I'll show you all this in a minute. So why do these come in this giant briefcase? Because the original mid tops did. So they came in this cardboard, I don't know what you call it, like outer shell. And then these guys were housed in a much slimmer package. And when you would open this guy up, not only would the shoes be in there, but you'd also have a CD-ROM, which would go over all the design and performance aspects of the sneaker, which I find to be awesome. So these guys are the shoes. Obviously, we've got the mids and then we've got the lows. The lows are an interesting concept because they were made to be convertible. So as you can see with the mids, they come in the standard height, but the lows come with this internal sock. And what you were supposed to do with it is, you know, one of two things. You could either fold all of that stuff in and they'd be very clean looking, or you can leave it out and you'd have this little weird collar that does nothing, but it's there.
How?
Now these guys right here are the originals, and yes, the outsole has come off because they are that old. But comparing the two, the shape of the toes, like the volume here, it's just a little bit more bubbly in this brand new pair. It's more structured. The originals were more performance driven, so they fit a little bit closer to the toe. The materials are also thicker in the originals, so it's gonna be kind of hard to see, but if you look at those little dots like cut out, nice thick pieces of leather. And then when you look at the new one, it's definitely leather, but it's also definitely thinner. But overall, if we're talking about like the look, the materials, just the overall package, I do think that they did a very good job. Are they perfect? No. Are they super close though? Yes. And that to me is like a big win. Now, as far as their performance features are concerned, just in case anybody's curious, because I know that most people aren't going to be buying these today to play in, but that's what I buy basketball shoes for, so we're going to go over it anyways. The outsole right here is very cool. It's decoupled, so the rubber right here isn't continuous. You do have two pieces, which on the original pair you can clearly see. These things right here are also ultra thin, so it's really interesting to see shoes like this taken apart. This is where they reduce a ton of weight in something like this that is very kind of like heavy, and even with the rubber being as thin and as minimal as it actually is, the shoe itself is not lightweight, you know what I mean? And so it's really cool to like see where they do cut weight, because it's needed, because rubber is probably one of the heaviest things that they put on footwear. But either way, we've got a bunch of pods full of herringbone, and the pods themselves are supposed to mimic or kind of like take inspiration from a golf course. And if you don't know, MJ likes to play golf. He loves the sport. Any waking moment that he has, he'd be on the green, even during his playing days. Now, on top of all of that stuff is all the main components of its tech. It's a very interesting shoe. This is the original right here, and they are double lasted, so the forefoot with the rubber taken off, you can see that the upper is wrapped around the midsole itself. The midsole is inside of the forefoot section of the shoe, not inside of the rear. So within that midfoot back, the midsole is actually housed and caged within this chassis right here, which does not age well over time. But this is what happens when polyurethane is housed with inside plastic. The moisture buildup escapes from somewhere, some way, somehow, and it's gross. It's so sticky, it's nasty. But this is really cool right here. So you could see the leather right here. They basically like shred off the polyurethane coat. That's how the leather is able to bond with the glue to the midsole or outsole or both. And then you can kind of like see where they wrap it and everything like that. And inside of that is actually a polyurethane midsole. So this is all polyurethane. It's soft, it's cracking. If it was not housed within this plastic, it would be completely crumbled. It's pretty weird, but it's interesting. And then you can see the large carbon fiber spring plate, and that still is in the retro, which is awesome. So you can see it throughout the forefoot area, the midfoot, and then poking out of the heel there as well. So yeah, the overall setup is very cool. Obviously it doesn't last too long, or I shouldn't say that, it doesn't last forever, but nothing does, so. And then as far as the tech is concerned, outside of just the polyurethane midsole, the forefoot area does have a top-loaded zoom unit. If you wanted a visual, it looks just like this. The rear, however, features a bottom-loaded air sole unit. So we've got air in the back, zoom in the front, polyurethane wrapped up in this TPU chassis, which is then double lasted in the forefoot, and then rubber is slapped on the bottom of that. So yeah, that's a whole lot of stuff in just this little shoe. Now the leather itself, like I was showing you guys earlier, is not as thick or as plush as the originals. It's still very good. Supposedly this is as close as they can get nowadays, so you know, this is one of those things where you take it or leave it. I'm personally just happy that these are back and that they do look as good and as close as they do to the originals. And I think that anybody that had the originals or maybe didn't have the originals like myself should be happy too, so long as you're able to get them. Speaking of which, they're super limited. They're only available, as far as I'm aware, at neighborhood doors and select neighborhood doors at that. So for example, if you happen to live here in the Sacramento area, they were raffling these guys off over at Phenom, which is in the Doco shopping center. And if you follow them on social, then you already knew this, but if you don't, now you do. And you know what they say about knowing.
Knowing is half the battle.
Now, some really cool features on the shoe itself come in the form of, at least I think, the tip of the toe. It's got the 23 etched inside of the rubber. Then you've got the TPU toe bumper right there for toe drags. When you work your way up a little bit, you see the little base of the lace tongue tag. That thing is awesome because not only does it say Jordan, much like the Air Jordan 13, but they were able to incorporate this year's model number within the N. So not only is it an N, it's a 1 and a 7 for 17.
Wow.
The lacing system is very weird. The mids really accentuated that because they not only came just like this, but they actually had a secondary set right underneath that, which you can see on this original pair. And the reason for that is because they came with one of these little things. It's kind of a shroud, but not really, because it's obviously completely removable. It came with plastic little clips that would snap in those extra lace holes. So you could do one of two things. You can either readjust your laces, or you could put this guy on there and it makes it snug, and that's an understatement. It's suffocating. But one of the other inspirations for the shoe is featured on this little, I don't know what you would call this, just the border of the shroud or cover, where you see music notes on there. It's meant to represent jazz. because Wilson Smith correlated MJ's game to jazz music, so there you go. Now, as far as sizing is concerned, you could do one of two things. You can go true to size, you should be okay, but if you were going to play in them, I would go down half a size. They actually feature a squared toe, much like the Air Jordan 16, the model prior to this, and the Air Jordan 18, the model after. And you can really see that visualized with the actual insole where it's not pointed, you know what I mean? It's just straight up squared off. And fun fact, this is the original insole, whereas this is the retro insole, and they are the same. That's really cool. That's one of those things that I was actually surprised with. They really did try very hard with these guys, and the overall product, in my opinion at least, really shows. Now, with all of that stuff out of the way, do we happen to have time for a question of the day?
What would you rather have named after you? A gym, a park, or a street?
I've seen streets, but they're not named after me, but they do feature the name, so I count that. If I was young, I would jack that sign.
You've seen a Chris Street or a Christopher Street?
Christopher.
Okay.
Maybe that's why I haven't stolen it. I don't claim that name.
Yeah.
You know, that was my born name, but Chris sounds better to me.
Okay.
Christopher is what my mom calls me, and I don't like that. But, I mean, if it was a park, I'm assuming it's the basketball court, or it's the whole park?
The whole park.
Okay, or a gym.
I'm going to Chris time today.
That would be weird. That doesn't sound right at all. See, I mean,
24 Chris.
Yeah, I would. Chris 24, just Chris all the time. And all the TVs don't feature like anything on there but this YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That'd be f***ing weird. I mean, I probably would do a gym. We were planning, or at least hoping to, prior to COVID, making a WearTesters gym, which would have been really cool. But once COVID happened, all the shutdowns and lockdowns happened, and all of the gyms had to close because of it. And we were like, wow, we really and lucked out of that one. So will I ever plan to do something like that again? I'm not sure. It's a big risk, and it being local versus something like the internet where it's like kind of like worldwide, I don't know if it would translate well in terms of support, unless it was a really bitchin' facility, which is what I was planning on having. But yeah, that would be my thing, is that I would love to have a gym, but have it be the WearTesters gym, not the Chris gym.
I want a street.
Would it be Jody Lane, or would it be like Joe Dizzle?
No, it would be Jody, spelled correctly with just an I. But maybe I'd be like a Jody Court or a Jody Circle or a Jody Lane.
Only way is if I would choose like Chris's Way. So.
Jody's Way? Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
Well, it's happening, folks. But yeah, a facility would be cool. But what about you guys? Which would you prefer? A street named after you, and if it was, what would the street name be? A gym named after you, and if it was, what would it be named? Or a park, and I think we got it after that, but if you wanted to leave the park's name, go for it. And on top of all of that, were you able to secure a pair of these? Because these were not easy to find. Not everybody has neighborhood doors near them, so good luck to everybody that was after a pair. I apologize for not getting this up sooner. We've been super busy. We've been doing what we can to get everything out on time. But sometimes we're just packed, man. It is what it is. But thank you guys so much for being here and supporting us anyways. We greatly appreciate it. We will catch you guys on the next one. So until next time, y'all have a good one.